Hello again. I am Kim Bredberg. I'm one of the founding partners of Blackbird and Company, and I am a writer by nature. I have a master's degree in writing, and but even if I didn't have a master's degree in writing, I would be a writer. I love writing. I really care about writing. Over the years, I've led many students into the middle school, high school level, and a significant, more than a handful of my students have gone on to have work published or be recognized by the Scholastic Arts and Writing Awards for their writing. And all of my students who I'm still in contact with, who've gone on to college and beyond, they all use writing in their life, and that really encourages me. I think writing is a skill that studying writing doesn't mean you're going to grow up and be an author, but we email, we text, and we should present ourselves in a voice that elevates who we are. So we want everybody to be literate when it comes to writing. So Claire, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Claire Bond, and I wear many different hats at Blackbird and Company. But one of my main roles is to lead the Pages Online Teachers, and I'm a teacher myself. I typically teach levels 2 and 3 and some applicational classes. And I have three children who've used Blackbird and Company curriculum, and I've taught in the classroom with it, and now I currently teach online.
Hey, okay, so we're going to start with a PowerPoint, and here comes my technology. It's going to be smooth. Third time's a charm. Okay, so yes, we are going to be sharing ideas on how to encourage your middle school and high school writers. So in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, students will be using the core level 3 and these units are included in our grade level collection, but they can also be purchased a la carte so that students can choose the titles that they like. And students will be in level 3 for 3 years. Simultaneous to being in level 3, we are introducing composition, the essay. And so students will be learning this big brand new form. The first year they will be just learning about the structure of an essay, the purpose of an essay, and exploring some techniques, some more advanced techniques through constrained writing. So with the essay unit, they will be learning how to constrain their voice using only active verbs through one particular sense. In the 7th grade, they'll be actually jumping into essay writing, constraining their idea to 30 sentences. We give them the purpose of each sentence and how those sentences are supposed to carry their idea through to a culminating idea. And in the 8th grade, they'll be exploring the literary essay, where again, with 30 sentences, they're going to explore some of the important themes of a picture book. And yes, I did say picture book. We have chosen 5 exceptional picture books for students to use because they contain in the world of the stories some really rich and valid themes that they'll be writing about. And the purpose of these essay units is to get the students writing. So in middle school, there's this jump from the expanded paragraph and from really working on honing sentence writing and clarifying and building the lexicon to jumping into a more advanced form. And so before we get started, I want to remind everyone that we believe that form always follows function. So even when we're introducing this brand new form in middle school, it's the idea, it's the big idea that comes first. The structure will follow the idea. So let's go back to core. So each week we're still building this muscle. We're reading exceptional literature, and these are they're bigger books, more words. We try to always include fiction and some nonfiction element in any given year. Again, they are going to be exploring vocabulary, characters. They're going to be tracing the plot, constructing sentences, writing paragraphs, learning to hook. But here's the key. This is all for the sake of becoming a writer, becoming literate, becoming confident with writing. This is not a journal for us teachers to decide whether our students are comprehending the story well. It's way more than that. This is about writing. So the journal notes, what has taking journal notes got to do with writing? Everything. And we're using the book to help the student lock arms with this writer. So any book that you can read has been written. It's an idea that was in the mind of a writer. So every week, students are using exceptional words. So again, building that vocabulary to describe the characters they're reading about. They're going to describe them with words that, that tie to their personal observations. And so this was an interesting little case where at the beginning of the year, the student was really focusing in on kind of some of the transient character traits, like in a moment. In a moment, someone might be lazy, but I would very rarely say to someone, you're lazy by nature, right? So all of you can see upset in a moment, bored in a moment, excited in a moment. So we talked about how, yes, characters can have these momentary traits that will describe them. But why don't you think a little bit about some of the states that kind of go through life, traits, not states. Well, states do, but some of the traits that go through life with this character. So you'll see a couple of sections later, loyal, kind, generous, beautiful. So what students will do again is they will choose words to mirror these observations, but then they're doing kind of this pre-research where they are actually, scouring the book to find a passage that will defend that choice. So this is kind of this is a writing skill that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but it's actually a pre-research writing skill, but it's constructive in nature. Vocabulary, like level 2, that we talked about in the last session, students are looking up words using a dictionary, and we always recommend a handheld dictionary. And again, think about the vocabulary as a larger exercise. This is not just vocabulary development so that when your student takes the PSAT, they will score big on that test. Words are what we writers use to describe our ideas. And sometimes you might have this wonderful idea in the back of your mind and you want to communicate it, but if you don't have the right word to communicate it, you're going to become very frustrated. So we do vocabulary development in our core every week, and we're not choosing words that are on some word list for middle school. These are, we call them the juicy words that we find in the stories themselves, the words that the author is using in the story. I love, this one has the word neurologist. vengeance, derisive, great words, big words. Okay, responding in sentence form becomes really fluid. This one became so fluid that it's messy. And you know what? That's okay. I always encourage getting the idea out, and then there's a final draft. I have been known occasionally when these sentences are so fast that they're illegible to say, hey, let's copy these over slowly and beautifully onto a separate piece of paper. That's a great writing skill because it shows, and this is something that we want to always keep in mind, is writing should never be so precious that we don't dig into it and help it to be more polished. One time I was in a poetry workshop as an adult, and we did this really interesting exercise where we had to, 1 week we wrote a poem, and we wrote it in any form we wanted, and we just came to the workshop with that poem. Well, the assignment for the following week was to take the exact same subject of that poem and to translate it into a completely different form. So if it was a haiku, you might decide, oh, I'm going to put that into a sonnet. But again, what it really reminded me is, first of all, don't be afraid to change your writing. But it also, it's a good example of how form follows function. The idea was easily transferred to different forms of writing. So, so never be, we don't want to be harsh about writing that's becoming fluid, but we want to again choose our battles. And if it's just rushed and messy and careless, oh, let's do a little bit of copy work. The rough draft. You can see with this how much more confident this is than some of the writing we looked at in the elementary writing from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in the last session. So what I really love about this particular paragraph is the first sentence. This student has been working in Blackbird and Company curriculum for a few years now, and the first sentence is definitely a hook. It was a hot summer day, and I found myself at Knott's Berry Farm with my parents. That's just a great hook that draws me in, and I'm really excited about it. It's a really linear paragraph. In the 5-minute conference, when the student was reading this back to me, there weren't spelling errors that jumped out of me. There are some spacing issues that I pointed out, you can see in the conference. And we talked a little bit about quotation marks and how when someone is speaking, we quote, we use a comma. And there's a couple of different ways that quotation marks can be used in sentences. So in the conference, we talked about that. The whole goal here is this unencumbered idea making. We want to get there. Okay. And you'll see in the final draft, don't be afraid to put marks even on the final draft. This is a messy final draft that the student just kind of rushed. And so the red pen got taken out on this final draft, and that's okay. Okay, so now we've done middle school. We've been introduced we've done core. There's Operation Lexicon to continue building vocabulary. They have worked through Tools of Style, which is our rhetorical device series from 5th through the 8th grade. And then they have been introduced to composition. Now we're ready to bring everything together. Everything that they've learned and practiced and worked on, all of the idea making now is going to be tied together in our high school curriculum. So in the 9th grade, the core is of the program is level 4, and they will work through 6 units tied to 6 novels. In the 9th grade, we've chosen books that are a little more gentle read. They're still pretty sophisticated novels, but they are also across many of the high school literature genres. So we've got world literature, British literature, American literature, all tied. We have, fantasy, magical realism, pure history, fictional history, kind of in this 9th grade survey. They're going to explore characters every week. They're going to now, instead of tracing the plot and exploring the setting, they're going to be tracing themes, symbols, and motifs, getting ready for their college experience. They're going to create a synopsis and a personal reflection each week, and these are constrained. So the synopsis is going to be 150 words, and the personal reflection 300 words, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. And they're going to then create a culminating essay. And this essay is going to be like the essay they learned how to write in the 8th grade, volume 3 introduction unit. So it's going to be a 30-sentence essay, a literary essay. But also in the 9th grade, we've introduced our intermediate composition. So they're going to move right from doing essays about picture books into little worlds, where they will again explore the form of composition, essay composition, in a more intermediate way. And they're going to create essays tied to short stories, great authors like Hemingway and Flannery O'Connor, Eudora Welty, Gwendolyn Brooks, and more. So the Writer's Toolbox is a style guide with exercises that will reinforce what our students have been introduced to with tools of style in middle school. So 9th grade survey, the 10th grade survey, the same thing. This year they're going to we're going to be focusing on American Lit, great stories from American authors. Operation Lexicon will be tied to the work of John Steinbeck. And then volume 5, intermediate essay, this is where they're going to be working on exploring the persuasive essay. Everything in the front of these guides will explain to the teacher how the guide is organized. Pacing is built into all of our guides. There's a header at the top of every page that shows you where you are and what you should be doing. So the teacher is built in. In 11th grade, we're going to focus on British Lit with some wonderful contemporary and classic novels by British authors. But now we're going to introduce our culminating essay unit. This is advanced composition, the essay. It's volume 6. And this is called Person, Place, and Thing. And this is where students are going to combine what they've learned in research and combine essay writing and craft a literary long form research essay. So what they do, and they will be doing this essay in both 11th and 12th grade, what they are going to do is they're going to choose a theme. So we've talked a lot about themes, and they've explored themes in the literature that they've been reading. They've been journaling about themes. So they are going to choose a theme like happiness or gratitude or courage, or even a theme like evil. And they're going to choose a theme, and then they're going to choose a person, place, and thing. So we're playing on, the noun. It's going to be kind of an applied noun. And they're going to then research that person, place, and thing through the theme. So our sample essay, which we use as the teacher to guide the student into the work of researching, taking notes, taking those notes and turning them into, one paragraph at a time. The student essay is entitled Tragedy, Abraham Lincoln, Terrorism, and Escalators. So what this 12-page paper will do is guide the students on an exploration of how you craft one of these long-term essays. And they have a lot of fun. I've led quite a few students through this journey, and the papers are always unique and they are always readable. And they're different because you're not just writing an essay or you're not just creating a research project on Abraham Lincoln and walking us through his life. What you're doing is you're doing a research project on tragedy, and you're using the tragedy in Abraham Lincoln's life to illustrate that theme. And so the papers are really good. So the students will actually compose 2 of these research projects. They will compose one in the 11th grade and another one in the 12th grade. So the one in the 11th grade, there's more hand holding. The training wheels are still on. When they get to the 12th grade, they've done one of these 30-week papers, and they've been guided through the process. They've finished one. Now they get to do one without the training wheels. And they will have 2 really exceptional papers. In the 12th grade, students will focus on, with their core, they will focus on world literature. Again, nonfiction, contemporary living writers, and classic works have been put into the collection, but always people are able to purchase 6 guides a la carte. In high school, we like students to have choice and to be involved in choosing those titles. Operation Lexicon, our culminating vocabulary development piece at the 12th grade level, is focusing on ancient writers. So Homer and contemporaries of Homer. So the words in that unit will be really exceptional. And so let's talk about how that looks in high school. So each week we provide a word bank, a character bank, with the main characters that the student will encounter in that week's reading. The student does not have to observe character development in every one of these characters. They are free to choose what stands out to them. They will choose descriptors and they will defend their ideas with information from the reading. Again, it's always their observations. Now, themes, symbols, and motif. We will define all of these in the front matter, the front of the guide for the teacher and the student. This is all paced out. There's a word bank of themes and a word bank of symbols and motifs. And then the student chooses to make observations from the word banks. Vocabulary. Now, this is where, we have been choosing the juicy words from the books in level, from early bird level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now we pass the baton to the student and we say, we want you to find 5 wonderful, exceptional words in your reading. We want you to look those words up and we want you to use those words in a new way. And it's really fun because, I've taught this in groups before, and it's very rare that students come up with the same words. And so it's fun to share those words. A synopsis. So this is an example of a 10th grader who has been doing this for a while. And she also just has really beautiful penmanship. So I like to show that off because it's interesting. Penmanship will tell us a lot about the state of where you're at when you're writing. oftentimes in my roughs, my penmanship is really messy. I feel like this student did her synopsis on a separate piece of paper and then wanted it to be beautiful in her guide. But the synopsis is really just what we've been practicing all the way from early bird through level 3 of tracing and following a plot line. Okay, so we've taught students that, you know, when you're doing a section of reading, there are important little mile markers in that reading that we want you to think about. So a synopsis is basically tracing the plot in narrative form. Okay, so in this paragraph, we will not be speaking from the first person point of view. We'll be just, you know, narrating from afar. We're requiring students here to just write 150 words. So once they get this into their journal, they type it. And this is what a typed 150 words looks about like this. A personal reflection is a really important part of more advanced writing. This is writing from the first person. This is narration from the first person, but it's what do you think? What do I think? So I'm going to write in this section of the story, I felt like this when the character did this. We give a little bit more room for personal reflection. We want the student to write 300 words. And we are being sticklers. We want exact words. This means that they're going to have to, when they type, they're going to have to delete, rearrange. They're going to have to maybe add a few words. And what this does is it just hones writing skills. It helps you to see, oh, this word doesn't count, but I really want to use this word. Well, then I'm going to have to delete something else. So constraint is a really important practice in becoming a literate, articulate writer. So once it's in the journal, we ask the student to type it, and you'll see 300 words is just a little bit more, but it's not a full page, and those were both double spaced. I always require students when they're typing to double space. And then the final essay. So in the level 4 guides, students each week are collecting quotes as they read, quotes that defend or are tied to various themes that they find interesting in the story. So they'll have quotes for 4 weeks worth of quotes that they've been collecting, and that will make the process of constructing a literary essay more doable. They have all of the fodder they need. They've got, you know, words to describe, they've got their journal notes. And so in the level 4 guides, we give, I'm going to show you just this page. So in the level 4 guides, we provide a whole bunch of essay prompts. So choices, but students are always free to kind of go rogue and choose a prompt of their own. I always like them to run it by me, or I would have them run it by you as the teacher beforehand. But they're going to follow the 30-sentence essay, where each sentence has a purpose, and I'll show that a little bit more, but they will work from a rough draft to a final draft, just like they did in the earlier, where we're teaching the form in introduction to the essay, intermediate essay, persuasive essay. Okay, so, you know, with this in mind, with this longitudinal approach to writing, students are really going to, they're going to be able to communicate an idea in these more sophisticated forms. Claire, do you have a few things to talk about middle school?
Yes, I was just going to add that what Kim just said about the longitudinal, that they're between the fourth and fifth grade and then to middle school, so level 2 and 3. So they're here for 5 years, and we've talked about writing 24 paragraphs a year. And so that's really building up. So they're ready when they get to this level 4 here, right? And I just wanted to point out, I keep talking about using the guide as your tool and your reference. And Kim said this at the beginning, but just to point out, so far the guides that you've been using as a tool are giving a lot of the same tips, and we're just moving the writing up a little bit, right? We're asking for a little bit more, for a little bit more detail. We're increasing a little bit through each one. But in this one, the guide really does change. And so there's a whole new reference in here. So just to use it, that will give you, because when you hear themes, symbols, motifs, that can be intimidating, right? So then we give you the definitions in there to reflect back on, to say, what am I really asking? What really is that? Because now, we've really used this note taking here that we've talked about. We give you the characters, we've given you the vocabulary, we give you everything built in, right? The discussion questions. Now they're finding that all themselves. And that's been a long build. They've been doing this practice now for 5 years, so they're ready to jump into this. We've already been talking about the book being your mentor and looking at vocabulary that stands out to you. And what would would you do this word? Would you pick it? Would you define it? Looking for special quotes in there. So this is not all, you've really been moving up in this. So now that you're, finding these things yourself, making your own discussion questions, and you've been answering those regularly within the book, right? So they know what those look like, but it gives you some beautiful examples. And there's also an example of a synopsis written 150 words. There's an example of a reflection, 300 words. There's examples of written discussion questions. And so that's all within the guide. So again, just using that as your tool. I just wanted to go back to, I don't actively teach level 4, but I've been actively teaching level 2 and 3 on Pages. And something that we've talked about, the rough draft and the editing process and the conferencing. And Kim has talked about reading out loud, have the student read it out loud multiple times and read it again, right? And read it to someone, and in the conference doing that. And I just wanted to bring up an example of a student that I had, that I was taking through the level 3 literature guides, but we were also going through the essay volume 1. And so that starts in middle school, and you have 1, 2, and 3 for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And during that level 1, you're going through a paragraph each week, and you're using active verbs, right, to describe taste and smell and sight throughout these little exercises that you're learning to write the essay. And when I got a rough draft, and it was from one of the literature guides, and I went through and we pulled out the great hook, and we got the twist, and we worked on, some of the spacing and some of the fragment sentences in front of, some of the redundancy. And we worked on these different things, and we went through edits. And then I've got his active verb. I'm sorry, my mind is not taking it, the little paragraph that he used for his essay. And I realized I could tie in another learning lesson. So I went back, I'd already edited once, but I went back and edited again, showing him within his literature guide where he could change some of his wording and use more of the active verbs. So what I'm trying to do is show him how they tie together, and that it's okay to go back and edit more than once. It's okay to keep finding things that we can work on. So, he had used they have several times, and I changed that to some of those active verbs. So I spy, I encounter, right? Captures my attention. So don't be afraid, and Kim showed that in one of the rough drafts, to keep going back, that you can edit multiple times. Just as we reread and we hear things and we catch things, we can also go, and it's not to pound when we're doing this. Like she's talked about picking your battles. We don't ever want to defeat. We always want to protect the original idea. We want to encourage and try to keep to their language. But if you can show how things tie in, then don't be afraid to do that when they're getting into this higher level and they're using multiple tools for their writing and writing essays. So that was just an example. Don't be afraid to go back. You can edit again, and that's okay, you know? So that's what I had to share um, for this level. Kim, was there anything else you wanted to
Yeah,
add on that?
I just kind of wanted to show also how the students are supported. At the end of each guide, I showed the writing prompts. The essay prompts that we give. But here we show them this 30-sentence scaffold, which defines the purpose of every sentence in their essay. And we're not telling them what to say, we're telling them how the form works and how the flow works. We're giving them a sample essay demonstrating the form, and then we map out that form for them. So they always have this to refer back to. This is how the essay needs to work. Again, we've empowered them back during level 2. We've empowered students with the red pen. We've asked them to reread their own work. And so once they've written their rough draft, and here's a sample of the beginning of an essay rough draft, they're going to go through that rough draft, and we're going to guide them into the process of self-evaluation. We're going to ask them to read the essay a couple of times with this built-in teacher at the end of the guide. We're going to ask them to go into their own work and to label their sentences so that they see, I only have 27, or I have 45 sentences, right? And is each one of my sentences, is it serving a purpose, or am I just free flowing, right? So in the level 4 essays, we culminate with a 3-sentence introduction. We often take our freedom for granted. In the book, Catherine Called Birdie by Karen Cushman, Catherine is forced to juggle the confusion of growing up and the stress of her arranged marriage. While on her journey, she navigates the themes of entrapment, love, and identity. So we know that body paragraph 1 is going to focus on the theme of entrapment. Body paragraph 2 is going to focus on the theme of love, and body paragraph 3 is going to focus on the theme of identity. And so it keeps the student organized. Why do we keep these essays at 30 sentences? Because once you learn the purpose of the form, 30 sentences will help students to really understand this form. Beyond that, now you just add more details. You add more clusters of showing and telling, or the quote clusters. You add more body paragraphs, and that's how we move pretty seamlessly right into our long research paper. So over time, just, our core is really going to set our high school students on a literary journey where they get to college and they're ready to go. I'll say I've had many students I actually have a friend who teaches at USC. She teaches English at USC, and one of my students actually went to USC as an English major. And my friend was just flabbergasted by the kind of courage of this student to write her ideas in very sophisticated ways. My friend said that her papers were delightful to read because they were genuine, and consequently, because the ideas were genuine, the form followed suit. So again, form following function. That's how it happens. Another example I like to use of the transfer from high school to college is my oldest daughter. She went to Loyola Marymount many years ago now. She's in her 30s. But she went into Loyola into the honors program, and the second semester was hired to be the writing tutor for the entry-level writing course, honors writing course. And so the time came for the first prompt the professor gave, and my daughter Hannah was in this room with this, 12 of the students from this writing class, and they were in a panic, all of them, because they wanted Hannah to communicate to them what the teacher wanted to hear. And Hannah was reading the prompt thinking, oh, what a great open-ended prompt. And oh, my idea could take me this way. Another idea might take me this way. Oh, so she said, Mom, my jaw dropped. And I was flabbergasted, but she went on and she said, she kept asking, what is your idea? What is your idea? What is your idea? You have to have an idea, and then you can take it into what the teacher wants is to hear your idea. So that was her answer, and that is a true answer. When I was in graduate school, for writing, the big thing that I was hearing from professors, at the program that I went to, I had professors from Carnegie Mellon and from UCLA and from USC come and teach some of the workshops that I took. And every single one of them said, we want to hear ideas. We don't want to hear stale, stagnant writing that is form first, at the sacrifice of the idea. So it's a long journey. We recommend being the tortoise, not the hare. And so 3 workshops in one day. Yay. If we have any questions, we'll take questions. Otherwise, Claire, do you have any final offerings?
No, I love that you pointed that out, Kim, because I get so focused on the front of the guide that I didn't mark the pages that these ones have one at the back of the guide that are very invaluable. And I tell my students when we are using these pages repetitively, especially when you get to the essay, of photocopying them and having them as a reference tool and being able to use them. So yeah, please reference. This is built in for you to have these beautiful examples on how to use the guide and how to write the essay. And I loved what you said. I just went to a college a workshop with my daughter yesterday, and they talked all about the essay, what they want to see. And I thought, oh, we're so golden, because my daughter has used this all along the way. And what they want is that original idea. They want an authentic voice. They don't want a regurgitation, and they want something that's going to hook them and pull them and want it to read, So I think that's what we're teaching along the way. So it's an invaluable tool, what Kim said, to take you into higher education and just take you into life, being able to communicate well what you want to say, right?
I'd like to share one more story that because you said that, Claire. One of my students, and actually one of the Blackbird partners, her daughter, Evelyn, she actually is a physician's assistant. And when she was applying to PA school, they have to write a personal statement, which, it's like a 12-page paper, a personal statement. Why do you want to be a physician's assistant? Why do you want to go through this medical program? And her program, really her personal statement turned the heads of the recruiters in her program. Evelyn was a writer all along. She won a National Scholastic Arts and Writing Award in high school, got to take a bow on the stage of Carnegie Hall, and she wrote this statement that is a publishable statement. It's not, well, I want to go to medical school because I appreciate this, this, and this. It's a journey. You read the 12 pages and you're journeying with her on the path towards medical school. So it's not, writing is important for all fields. And so I wanted to share that story too.
Okay, that's wonderful. If there's no questions, we'll just move on to where was there any questions? And otherwise I'll just tell you where to find us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go to our website, Blackbird and Company, you will be able to find all of our materials there, and we have them grouped by grade level and grade level collection, but then you can find things a la carte as well. So you can see our materials, and you can also see our Pages online classes, and that's on the orange bar. So if you click on classes, you'll be able to see a description of our classes, who's teaching it, the day, the time, and we have all of the sessions up for the year, which is really neat. If you have any questions along the way, please write in, because we will personally answer you, whether it's by email or a phone call, walk you through, hold your hand, give you as much as you need, any tips that we can. And then you can also reach us by our 800 number or our Take Flight email. And these sessions are being recorded and they'll be available online, so you can access that. It'll probably be more than 30 days before they're up. And then keep checking back, because we have a lot of freebies we post. We're always trying to help parents in any way we can. Kim has we have a lot of blogs up, and she currently has some blogs up all about editing and writing. And so those tips are really useful and beneficial, and hopefully you can take a look at that as well. So thank you for letting us present today and taking flight with us through middle school and high school. And we hope to hear from you and see you on our classes. Thank you.